Guys, we have the great honor today to have Nick Pope sitting with us. Nick, how you doing today?
Yeah, great, thank you.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit about your background?
I was a civilian employee for the British Ministry of Defence, which is basically the UK equivalent of the DoD here. And for much of the early 90s, I had a job where I researched and investigated the UFO phenomenon, assessing all the defence, national security and safety of flight implications.
Seems like a dull life, huh?
Yeah, boring.
So, in layman's terms, what does that mean?
It means I investigated UFOs.
Okay.
So most of them, of course, turn out to be misidentifications of ordinary objects and phenomena, and sometimes nowadays, of course, that's things like drones, secret prototype aircraft, missiles, weather balloons, satellites, meteors.
Gotcha.
There's a long list, but that's not what we're really interested in.
Right.
We strip that away. What are we left with? 5% or so of sightings where there does seem to be evidence of structured craft with speeds, maneuvers, and accelerations that seem to be beyond the cutting edge of our own technology. And we want to know what that is. Is it an adversary operating things in our airspace, or is it something else?
Here at the conference, you are one of the keynote speakers. Can you talk about, without giving up too much, about your presentation today?
My presentation here is looking at the potential dark side of this phenomenon, because in the UFO community, everyone talks about disclosure with a big D, and it's like, bring it on, tell us everything. If it's extraterrestrial, we can handle it. And my question really to the people is, are we sure about that? It's like opening a door and you don't know what you're letting in. We don't really know what the UFO phenomenon is. Let's suppose it is extraterrestrial. Is it necessarily going to be friendly? So we're exploring the dark side of all this.
Absolutely. And to pivot away from that for just a second, I saw that you also consulted on TVs, movies, and video games. Can you talk us through that and what goes through all that?
Sure. Well, because of my government background in this subject, Hollywood comes to me sometimes and says, well, look, we're doing a UFO film. Obviously, it's entertainment, but we want to kind of have some realism in terms of what people are seeing and reporting, how governments handle this, what they think of it. And so I come in sometimes to those movies, TV shows, whatever it is, as a consultant or as a spokesperson for the movie to kind of talk about it and compare the movie with perhaps real life.
Right. Just using the evidence that you have now, putting it into Hollywood.
Exactly, and I'm in a fortunate position because although I was obviously bound by a non-disclosure agreement, the British government itself declassified and released most of its UFO files some years ago, many of which, of course, I wrote. So that meant that I was able to speak about this openly.
Absolutely, it gave you credibility, which we all deserve.
Yes, and hopefully, I'm not pretending that I've got the answers to all this, but I think what I can do is bring a bit of insider perspective.
Is there anything that you worked on that the public may know of, like movies, TVs, video games?
Well, I mean, one of the things, of course, was the X-Files, and I met with Chris Carter some years ago and did some tie-in publicity, I think, for the second X-Files movie and for one of the box sets of Chris's favorite episodes. I came in to do some media interviews for that, and of course people were saying, well, Fox Mulder is a fictitious character, but the media have sometimes called me a real life Fox Mulder, so they were saying, how does it compare? And sadly, I have to say, it's not quite as glamorous as the TV makes out. I did not run around kind of darkened warehouses with a flashlight and a gun or anything like that.
Well, you weren't FBI yet, that's
No.
So what would you like the general public, such as myself, like them to know about the conference and what goes on around here?
I think what I'd say is this whole subject has come out of the fringe and into the mainstream in the last few years. We've had, for example, declassified videos from US Navy jets that have taken films of these objects with forward-looking infrared cameras. We've had some of the pilots and radar operators speak out. We've had hearings in Congress with some of these people speaking under oath, of course, giving their testimony. And also multiple UFO-related provisions in the annual defense bills. So I would say to people, don't think of this subject as it used to be, all sort of fringe and conspiracy. Think of it now as being in the mainstream. Think of the fact that NASA are doing work on this, the Pentagon is involved, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence is involved, and Congress is involved. And come and see what it's all about.
Right, absolutely. Now, before I let you go, let's say in an ideal world we do make contact. What would you like humanity to give to these extraterrestrials to take back home?
I think the best of everything that we can offer. We can do some pretty terrible things down here, but we're also capable of great beauty. And whether that's, look, in a universe nearly 14 billion years old, there might be civilizations out there 1 billion years ahead of us. Mm-hmm. We've probably got nothing to teach them about science, technology, engineering, but all the other stuff, art, architecture, literature, all that abstract stuff, give them the best that we have produced here and say, look, we can do some wonderful things too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nick. We really appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.